Hi there, guys. How are we doing? This is going to be a bit of an unscripted, kind of, I guess, casual, would be the word I'd look for, video, in which, as the title implies, I'm going to talk about a few build concepts that I had that were neat on paper and maybe made it to the very initial stages of planning, but had one or two things that tripped them up, or I just lost interest for one reason or another and never really made it into being builds. And I thought they were cool ideas, so I wanted to share them in some way, and this video is a way of doing that. If any of them do jump out at you and you think of something cool that I didn't, that might allow you to take it in a new direction or make it more powerful or just make the build and put your own spin on it, I'd love to hear about it, either on my stream, comments below, tweet me, whatever you want to do. I'd love to hear if any of you guys take some of these sort of half-built vehicles for a spin. The first one on the list is a shield charge poison bomber in big air quotes there. This concept relies on Pathfinder poison proliferation and the large amount of flat physical damage that you can get out of a very high armor or very high evasion shield to inflict poisons that then proliferate through a pack as you charge into them. As a base concept, it seems kind of interesting. You charge forward, you hit a pack, the whole pack falls over because of poison. Maybe you run Plague Bearer too to try and help out with this concept. But the damage on a shield just isn't quite there. Poison really does rely on lots of rapid, moderate, or small hits that stack up rapidly in order to do good damage, but it could possibly work if you were to stack some medium cluster jewels with the low tolerance notable that gives 300% increased damage for the first poison applied to an enemy, or a poison applied to a non-poisoned enemy, which really is realistically the first poison on an enemy. And if you got enough medium cluster jewels, say 4 of them, that each have this notable, that's 1200% increased damage because this stacks. Therefore, if you got a really high armor shield and you had a good number of like more multi-tier poison just through support gems, obviously, and then you charge into the pack of enemies, that first enemy that gets hit is going to be hit with a massive poison, and that's going to be proliferated throughout the pack and probably kill the whole thing. A few key problems with this: poison prolif range is not very large, so I think you would end up relying on Plague Bearer to do some of the clearing for you, but maybe it would just be good enough with repeated applications of shield charge as you plow your way through a pack. Sadly, the distance traveled multiplier from shield charge, the up to 100% more, only applies to hits. So while that would be extremely juicy for this setup because you have so many hundreds of percent increased damage that more multi would be massive, it doesn't work, which is unpleasant, but maybe it's still worth trying, and it might be something I get around to next time I'm playing in softcore, because I don't know if I could really make it work in hardcore. Also, your single target's probably going to be garbage. This really is much more of a zoom novelty kind of build than anything else, and a lot of the builds on this list are novelty. Maybe that's the title of the video. If that's the title of the video, then good job me. Novelty ideas or something like that didn't quite make it. The next one is a new one that was made possible this league by the alternate quality version of Decoy Totem that causes Decoy Totems to deal 40% of their life to nearby enemies in an AoE explosion on death. And there's not a lot of things that can scale this, sadly. Not a lot of support gems because Decoy Totem doesn't have a lot of tags. So why not put it in a setup that doesn't use any support gems and throw it into a Crest of Desire? Get 50% extra quality, get a bunch of extra gem levels, and get effectively a more multi in that 100% chance to deal double damage. So that would give you, probably the equivalent of like a 4 or 5 link worth of damage. It's rough to directly calculate. You're still going to definitely want some more multipliers if you can get them in there. That is the hardest thing to squeeze into this build. There just aren't very many that are applicable. You can do things like shredding enemy res, since I believe, actually it might be physical or it might be fire. I'm not sure about that. It'll flash up on the screen either way. But, yeah, you can do things like lowering enemy phys mitigation or shredding enemy res. Basically, you can debuff enemies. Things like shock to cause them to take increased damage, maybe scaling some shock effect. But I do think that there's some potential to throwing an alt-quality Decoy Totem into a Crest of Desire. As to how you would clear normally, because Decoy Totem has a fairly long cooldown, I think it would be best to use some other kind of totem setup, and since you're scaling totem life anyway in order to or in order to get more value out of your Decoy Totem on Death Explosion, you may as well go for a Reflect Totem build, which is something that Wolfio has played recently this league and actually looked pretty alright, so you can go and check that out. Again, like all the builds in this list, a little more of a novelty than anything else, and isn't really even a build. These are just meant to be cool concepts that you can potentially build on. The next one is a little more fleshed out, though, and is an idea of using Stampede with Deadeye, because Stampede, locking your movement speed 250% of its base value, gets not so much overwritten, but doesn't overwrite animation speed scaling, which means that Tailwind, Reverse Chill from Blood Boil, and Acceleration Shrines, like the one spawned by the Gull on kill, will all scale your movement speed still. And you still don't suffer the movement speed penalty from Cyclone because Stampede overwrites that. So I think you could get an extremely smooth feeling Cyclone Deadeye using Stampede, using Deadeye obviously, some instant skills, because you only gain Tailwind stacks on a skill use, so you will need to use things like Blood Rage, Convocation, maybe? You just throw in whatever instant skills you can put on your skill bar and you piano those as you play in order to keep up Tailwind stacks. And then the Gull in order to spawn some acceleration shrines while you're clearing around. And you'll have a Cyclone that moves extremely smoothly and rapidly through content. You can either just scale the Cyclone itself, or if you wanted to do it, you could do a cast while channeling Magma Orb setup, since that is something that Deadeyes already like to do. Deadeye, Sire Shards, cast while channeling Magma Orb Cyclone is a build that was a thing back in Legion League, and maybe isn't so great a thing for mechanics that aren't Legion, but is absolutely fantastic for clearing wide open areas, so you could spam the hell out of Legion, Scarabs, and Dune maps with that build and have a very good time, I imagine. It would go very quickly. The last one is more of a trimmed down concept than a full build, but is doing Raise Zombie Specters. Because technically, if you use Akuna's Will, your zombies are corpses and you can specter corpses. And you may ask, what's the benefit of this? Well, there's not a lot. There's a few, though. First off, this means you can use Specter Jewels. One of the cases of that, meaning you can give them Soul Eater. You can use the good Specter Jewel to give them Soul Eater. Or you could actually realistically use the bad Specter Jewel, the one that I forget the name of, that gives 1,000% crit chance at top end, and which is going to be showing up on screen right now, so you guys can see the name, but I don't remember it. Soulwick, I remembered it. It's called Soulwick. Soulwick has some downsides. Your Specters only last 20 seconds, and they don't carry over from zone to zone. But if you can raise corpses as zombies anywhere you go, you don't care about the corpses, and then you Specter set zombies, you'll always have the same Specters. Which, that's the problem with Soulwick, is very often, if you tried to use it, you wouldn't be able to bring the same Specters to every zone, so you wouldn't be able to have consistency in the support links that you need. You know, one zone, you'd have X, Y, and Z monsters available, and the next zone you go to and it has Q, F, and T monsters available, and you just, you know, some of those mobs want spell supports, some of them want attack supports. What are you going to do? Well, just bring your own. Bring your own by bringing some corpses, raising them as zombies, and then turning them into Specters. Will that cause you to spend a lot of time raising Specters in every map? Yes. Is it good? No. Could it be cool? Probably. If you could find some way to get around the long cast time of Raise Specter, the long cast time of Raise Zombie, the high mana cost of both, there's a lot of stumbling blocks here, but if you could actually get around all of them, you would be rewarded with 1,000% crit chance. And there's more tools in the game now to scale minion crit than ever before, through things like precision, through things like cluster jewels that gives minions crit multi. Power charges are obviously a great tool for minions. For non-player entities, they scale much harder than they do on player entities, so power charges are really strong. You could get some crit zombies. Probably not better than regular Specters, and probably not better than regular zombies, but certainly a lot spicier. That about does it, though, for this installment of whatever this series is going to be called. Novelty ideas, something like that. If any of these jump out at you and you find a way to hone off their rough edges, because every one of these ideas does have a rough edge or two, which is why they haven't become builds yet, do let me know. I'd be really curious to know what you might do with them. And honestly, even if you just found some of them interesting and thought the video was intriguing, let me know below as well, because I'd like to make more of these if you people would like to watch more of them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.